Oh, they're up there. Oh, okay, good. So done. Yes. I see them. There's nobody else. I've seen her out all the time. Okay, where? Oh, sorry. Gotta grab that. It was. Just rushed in looking. Take care. Recording is in progress, just so you know.
Do we have quorum? 1, 2, 3, 4. Data. It is go time here, so as soon as Veda comes up, we'll get this started. Great. Thank you, everybody. Apologies. We had a little presentation for some of our grants and aid out there now. So we will convene the meeting, the West Coast Committee meeting of Wednesday, July 2nd at, well, I'll look at yours, and it is approximately 10:02, not too bad, 2 minutes after. I do want to recognize the territories that we are working on. Many of us come from. Notice to attendees that this meeting is going to be recorded and live streamed on YouTube on the Regional District website. Maybe I'll do a quick introduction of the folks at the table here. Do we have anyone online? I'm just looking up there. I better put my glasses on. Negative, thank you. So that'll make it easy. So maybe we'll just start off to our left here. Just a quick who you are and what we do.
Morning, Kirsten Johnson. I represent the Tokwat Nation on the board.
Good morning, everyone. Marilyn McEwen, Mayor of Ucluelet.
Veda Siga, Area C representative on the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board.
And Tom Steer, appointed director from the District of Tofino and chair of the West Coast Committee. So thank you. Just a quick approval of our agenda today.
So moved.
So moved, seconded. Thank you. All in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carried. There are no declarations, from what I understand, no conflicts of interest, and maybe I'll move from the chair that minutes of the West Coast Committee meeting held on May 14th, 2025 be adopted. Thank you, Veda. All those in favor? None opposed, motion carried. Great. So we can get into our petitions today, our delegations and presentations. Rebecca, the executive director with a Clayoquot Biosphere Trust. Everybody here knows who you are, but so
Thank you.
introductions. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good morning. Awesome.
Good morning, and thanks for having me. My name is Rebecca Hurwitz. I'm the Executive Director of the Clayoquot Biosphere Trust, and I'm here today on behalf of the CBT and Ucluelet First Nation to invite you to a regional gathering in celebration and recognition of the 25th anniversary of the Clayoquot Sound UNESCO Biosphere, which will be held on September 20th in Tofino. So we're looking forward to bringing together the region to celebrate the theme of working together and taking pride in working together, which was the theme that was suggested by Ucluelet. We're inviting all communities, residents, and visitors to join us for the day. It will be a free community event at the Wickaninnish Community School field. It's a Saturday, and the day will start with Ucluelet cleansing the floor and opening in a good way. And then we'll have a chance for presentations by all nations and all communities around that theme. And so we would love it if the ACRD is a part of that. And we'll also be extending the invitation to all of the nations and municipalities to be a part of that day, presenting what they would like around that theme and recognizing that where we've come in these 25 years, knowing that's a small amount of time and, in the life of this special place, but also thinking about where we'd like to be going together and recognizing the themes of the biosphere, sustainable development, conservation, and reconciliation. I think there's a lot for folks to be sharing and speaking to. So we hope you'll be a part of the event. And if you have questions or closer to the time, maybe know who could be representing the ACRD, it would be great to reach out to me and I can connect with Ucluelet as I'll be hosting the stage for that day. And then I also wanted to share our annual report and to recognize both Nikki and Veda, the appointees to the Clayoquot Biosphere Trust Board, who are here today. Super grateful for their participation. Nikki is our co-chair, and so really active, along with Naomi Mack from Tokwat, which is awesome. Last year was a big year for CBT. I won't go into all the details. It's nice to have a hard copy, but feel free to pass it along once you're done with it. Last year was our largest amounts of grants in history, so over $1.2 million dispersed last year to nations, communities, and organizations. Those are grants from $50 up to $50,000. So on the large end are for stewardship and restoration projects in the region, and the smaller side is neighborhood small grants, so bringing people together and building community. We also completed the design work of the Biosphere Center last year, and so now we're in the stage of building permit, final stages of the building permit, along with other permitting and approvals, and working on our fundraising for that so that we can move forward with construction as soon as possible. We're really ready to get shovels in the ground pending the final amount of funding. Last year, we hosted a couple of regional forums and really grateful for all folks coming out to participate in those, as well as lots of land-based learning programs. So I hope you'll take some time to flip through the report and probably see lots of other projects that you've been connected with or perhaps participated in throughout the year. And open to any questions you might have.
Great. Thank you, Rebecca. Appreciate that. Any questions from... We've had many of us have had the privilege of having your presentation a couple of times now. So, Veda.
I just want to give a big shout out to the CBT. I think they bring an immense amount of wealth to this area. And I just really appreciate all the work that you guys do. Thank you.
Thanks, Veda.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, and Rebecca, I'd just like to echo those, all the years of working together and certainly the relationships you've built, not only with the ACRD, but of course, all the communities that are involved outside of that jurisdiction. So once again, thanks so much for keeping us informed, and we appreciate you coming every time.
Quick question.
Oh. Go ahead, Mary.
Thank you. Quick question. We're all looking so forward to that building being built. How far off are you from your goal, financial goal?
Yeah, the project is a $20 million project at this stage, and we've raised 12.5. And so we're seeking an additional $5 million from the province and have just gone through the budget consultation process, presenting there and working with all the ministries of the province to seek that support. And then we have a couple of other big grant applications in progress. So we feel like we could get there quite quickly if that big commitment was made.
Great, thank you. A lot of us will be at UBCM in September, so if there's any way we can advocate for you, let us know.
Thank you very much. I would be happy to provide a written update just before UBCM so that you can take that forward.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Appreciate it. Thanks so much for coming. So next on our agenda, correspondence for information we have, and I'm seeing over here in front of me here, from the Food Bank on the Edge, it was a request for support for demolition and landfill fee assistance for the Food Bank on the Edge. Any comments from the committee? Beta, go ahead.
No, thanks. I just think that local business or local organizations that are providing services in the community should be supported where we can.
Yeah, and the food bank is truly a regional initiative. They support. It's not just Ucluelet. It's the whole peninsula. So I think the regional district should help out wherever possible.
Great, thank you. And I will look to staff for a second, because I know we did have at the West Coast Committee meeting, I was just reviewing our minutes, sent up to the board for looking at the waiving of those fees for the demolition. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm looking at negative. I thought we had passed a resolution, but I'll check my notes again in terms of the waiving of those fees for that demolition. But I'll look to Jenny, maybe you can answer some of those questions.
Thank you. Through the committee, I apologize if I missed that because I wasn't here at the last West Coast Committee meeting, so my apologies. But I did have a chance to look at this, and I think I should highlight just a couple things. So there's two requests in here, and one is for a contribution, which we do have a mechanism for that, and that's through the Grant and Aid program. I don't believe we have a method to transfer funds to a not-for-profit through any other means. So I think that is how the request might need to come through, is through the Grant and Aid service. The waiving of tipping fees we can consider, but I think my question would be is what is the quantity of like tonnage that we're going to expect? So something, we're having the annual landfill report later in the meeting, and one of the challenges we're facing with the West Coast landfill is that we do not have a lot of money there, and so it's a little bit challenging right now financially in that service. And so if we were looking at a demolition project that was 100 tons and that construction waste would be coming into the landfill, it is filling up landfill space. It costs us money to deal with that. So we can always consider that, but I just want to make sure that we're making an informed decision. And the tipping fees that we would normally charge for that is $185 a ton. So if it was 100 tons, then it would be $18,000. And that might not seem like a lot, but our reserve currently only has $30,000 in it, and we have a lot of work to do at the landfill. Yeah, so I would say those are just some things to consider.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that. And I did have in my notes the two parts to the request in the letter, and certainly through the grants and aid is the one avenue for them to be able to do that. And then in terms of direction, maybe I'll look to the committee. It sounds like I'm hearing support in terms of looking in, and I see that we have the chair of the food bank sitting here. And full disclosure, I chaired that same many years ago. So there seems to be support in terms of probably just to provide a bit more information. I don't know. Mako, do you have any idea? Absolutely. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, thanks. I was in Maryland. Thanks again for the friendly reminder last night that was happening. I'm not the best on replying to emails. And for full disclosure here, it's not like your staff didn't reach out to us as a food bank about specific details for this meeting a number of months ago. It's just my inbox has about 500 unopened emails, and I like to, for some reason, keep it that way. Regarding the building in question is the existing building by the rec hall. I would anticipate it's probably 10 tons of material, and majority of that would be metal, which would go into a metal pile. So if you want to be able to pencil buck what that would look like, it's not 100 tons. The other part, regarding the grants and aid, I was brought up to my attention from staff regarding the grants and aid, and we just felt that it was the monetary value to the grants and aid was insignificant for us to make the application, giving us there was a lot of requests in the grants and aid regarding our financial history, and honestly, putting the 3 hours into it, it wasn't worth $1,000. So we just didn't put a grant and aid application forward. So. When I wrote this, it's dated February 22nd, so this was probably drafted late January. 6 months have come, and so I've got a couple of updates. We do have our occupancy permit, so we now have a building. We are about $100,000 over budget. The original budget told you guys we were about $200,000. The food bank in itself has put approximately $165,000 of its own operating capital into it, and the board has decided that we don't need to replenish all those operating funds because I'd have to say that we're relatively healthy. We're good for the next probably 18 months where we're going. So we're very optimistic with future fundraising. We'll be able to top up our operating fund. But when we're talking about our building fund, which we had a separate building fund, just to kind of give a little recap, and I'll leave a couple of notes for you guys when I leave here. One of them is basically the regional numbers of the usership for 2024, which is quite striking. It's about 2,200 families used us last year, and we have about a 10% growth that's continuing on for 2025. For most of you may not know, but the district was very kind to give us some land, although it was unserviced land. We were very happy to get that, and we were obviously quite happy to be donated $150,000, which contributed to from our community forest funds in Ucluelet, and a generous group called the All One Fund has donated $185,000. We had an original budget about $500,000. We came into some unexpected challenges. One of them was the fact it was unserviced. So we spent over $70,000 on just getting hydro to the property. So that was unexpected. And I thought that with me kind of shaking a few buckets here, I would make some headway with BC Hydro. I was happy to report I did get a couple phone calls in with some executives there. Unfortunately, they do the old, sorry, we can't do anything for you. So moving forward, we are in conversation with a few of the Indigenous groups. One of them is Ucluelet. Recently, we did a presentation. I like to be truthful. We did a $50,000 ask out of them because of their user group, and we showed them the numbers and stuff. So I expect to get an answer from them probably in the next 100 days as they work through it. Their council was appreciative of the information, and they want to support us, but it's going to take some time for them to spit out that number. And then the other group is Ucluelet First Nations, same ask. They're also another large user group. So I'm optimistic we're going to be able to collectively between those groups probably bring in $100,000 in order to because we've got a couple unpaid bills that are on our desk that we're hoping to get paid here in the next month or two. Then back to the building, we had a lot of oversights and we thought that we were going to be able to tear that building down before Yuki days and use it for other things. We're out of money. And so that's why it's going to your group here and saying, hey, can we do something about the landfill? It's not a big ticket item. It's probably good. I said it's probably going to be $2,000 to $4,000. Most of it's metal, and there's that general ask. I know there's groups sitting at this table here, and not today, that are probably intending of contributing to us. So I think regionally, and I also have an email out to Mr. Law with a $10,000 request from the District of Tofino that was sent his way. Again, I'm going to leave you some stats. I don't think I want to send them out publicly, but just regarding the usership of the food bank for 2024, and I think it just shows you that it's a regional thing. So having your contribution would definitely. We're looking for partnerships, and as you said, Tom, this is 100% volunteers. It's myself and 14 women that are doing this. I'm grateful what the district has done, and we're happy that we got occupancy. So we're going to be moving in here quickly. We just want to get a couple pennies out of you, and it doesn't need to be today. If you guys can do something in the next 12 months, knowing that there's something that possibly would come from your group in the next budget cycle would be appreciated. But the immediate ask is regarding the landfill if we're successful in demolishing the building.
Great. Thank you, Miko. Appreciate coming up and giving us that information. I'll look to Jenny. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a really helpful update. And I think that if the committee wanted to look at doing a tipping fee waiver to a maximum amount, then that would give some certainty as to what the financial situation would be for the regional district and what we can expect. And then that also would give some certainty to the food bank. So, understanding that it's, $2,000 to $4,000 is anticipated. If the committee wanted to pass a resolution with a limit on that, I think that would be appropriate.
Great, thank you. And just, you gave a rough estimate of between around 10 tons, between 2 and 4,000. So 10 tons, that's approximately just under $2,000. So I'll look to the committee. Veda, you have a comment?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if the building has to be demolished or whether it could be used in some other capacity.
There's other groups we haven't been approached. The original plan was that we were going to demolish it. I know there's other groups that want it. We're happy. We're looking forward to getting out of it. I think that if other user groups get into it, I think the taxpayers are quite frankly are going to be on the hook to fix something that we deemed is not usable. And so I'm a little bit nervous that we're trying to find other groups that perhaps would use this because it's if it was very usable, we'd be using it right now. It needs a significant amount of work. The building's probably 50 years old. We shouldn't even be in it right now. I know Chief Geddes looks the other way, and I think that I personally I don't think that's a viable option. I think, whether we tear it down this year or tear it down in 2 years from now, it's going to be a tear down. And we're trying to put something together that's my personal opinion. I do want to just brag about one other thing, though, if I don't mind, if I can have you, then I'll go. We've had a lot of businesses in our community that have donated. We probably, outside of the bills and everything else, we probably have over $100,000 of in-kind donations from contractors, excavation companies, gravel companies, electrical companies. So it's been remarkable. And then our biggest one is actually we're going to be I forget the acronym here, but we're going to be electric neutral, I think, because we're going to be putting solar panels. We have a contractor in the town that's going to be putting solar panels on our building. So we'll be, is it something neutral? Thank you. Anyways, we're doing the right things up there. We're doing a lot of great stuff. So I think it's really going to be something. And the other struggles we're going to be coming into. So you probably it won't be the last time you see us. I think one of the things, because we kind of ran out of our little slush fund here, that we were hoping to do a bit of a security fencing and stuff like that. We're a bit vulnerable up there. So we just definitely, that'll be something out that we hope to put on the radar in the coming months.
Thank you, Mako. So I'll look to the committee. If there's I think it feels like everyone's comfortable here looking at bringing forward a waiver on those tipping fees, and I'm hearing from staff that it would be very helpful if we could give an amount so that they could take it into the budget process. So, Marilyn, do you have a suggestion?
Sure, I'd be willing to move that the ACRD waive the landfill tipping fees up to a maximum of $4,000.
Seconded by Veda. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carried.
I appreciate that. Have a great day.
So moving on, just looking at, thanks, Michael. So moving on with the agenda, next up, we have a request for decision, our new water and sewer system bylaw for Long Beach Airport, and Jenny stepping up to the podium. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so this report is to look at updating our water bylaw for the Long Beach Airport. We currently have a water bylaw. It's a simplified, older style water bylaw. What we're looking to do is update it. Actually, we'll repeal it and replace it because it is old, and we want it to be more consistent with Millstream, Bamfield, and Beaver Creek. We have very good, robust bylaws with lots of definitions and explanations for everything in those. And then we have consistency across the board. So we're not always flipping back and forth to see what this specific bylaw says. The other thing we're looking to do, which will be a bit unique for the Long Beach Airport, is we also have a sewer system there. So there's 16 leaseholders who are on the water system, but only 8 of those are on the wastewater system. So we'll have separate language to deal with each of those. If you're using the water system, you would be paying water rates. If you're using the water and sewer system, you would be paying both of those. Right now, we have recently updated the water rates and we increased it to a minimum $100 per month for leaseholder. We're not recommending any changes to those rates. Really, just the language around water is to provide consistency so we know what the definition is. And partly that's because things have changed out there. You know, we have essentially a trailer park or a campground that we're leasing out right now, and that's unique, and we don't have any language around that. So that's one of the big gaps. But then we realized, well, we should just put in all the language so that it can encompass any situation. With the wastewater system, we have currently just been funding that out of our general revenue for the airport. And what we're looking to do is start doing a user pay system. So those that are using the sewer system are then contributing specifically to try and help with that. We recently upgraded the community septic system. Basically, it's a sewer system that goes into like a type 3 septic system for 200 grand this last year. So it's a costly system and we do need to find different ways to generate revenue. We've looked at other areas as well as airports to see what kind of fees would be appropriate. We will not be getting to cost recovery because the fees would just be enormous. So we're recommending that we set up a starting rate of $25 a month for those who are connected to the sewer system. So $25 per consumer unit. If the committee passes this and supports our resolutions, then we will go and prepare the bylaws to bring back to the board for adoption. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jenny. I'll look to the committee if there's any questions. Beta, go ahead, please.
Sorry, is the sewer system an open lagoon type or is it a septic type?
It's much more like a septic system. So we do have a holding tank in there, and I believe we've actually installed some media, so it does a little bit of pre-treatment before then it goes to the septic fields. And then in the septic fields, it just goes to ground.
And I'm just like groundwater is also going to be an issue as you start to remove some of that vegetation. Is there a plan for the groundwater runoff?
Yes. So the location is quite separate. So we have a well system, which is sort of right at the beginning as you come into the airport, and our septic system is at the far other end. So luckily, we have a huge amount of separation, which allows us to have that protection of the groundwater source. And we don't have future plans for developing any wells anywhere near our community septic system.
I'll look at any other questions, just a couple comments, and then we can get to the recommendations. You know, obviously the cost recovery conversation is one that we want to make sure that we can get as close as we can in terms of the ability for the taxpayer to be represented in a good way. And so, you know, I did have interesting, you know, I took the notes down, and in terms of this is a long-term conversation, and I'll be supporting the recommendations that you brought forward. And I've asked this before, I know, but every day is a new day. In terms of the conversations, the District of Tofino, as you know, has created a wastewater treatment plant with conveyance systems, and you know, just looking at some of the upgrade costs to the septic system, I think last year, I think about 200,000 roughly in that, and then certainly over time and as we develop, and is there and I know it would be very expensive, but is there a conversation with the district of Tofino in terms of what that connection might look like into the future?
Excellent question, because really this, you know, we know the airport's going to develop out, and whether it'll be longer term, 20, 30 years, and the current system isn't really designed to meet that kind of dense development. The longer term plan would be to connect to that. So we did some, you know, desktop studies on costs, and we're into the millions of dollars because we need to have a pump station and sewer force mains and a lot of investment in that. We actually did apply, I think it might have been a few years ago, to the Strategic Priorities Fund to try to get money to do that. We definitely can't fund that, so that would have to be grant funded. And then once we've got that capacity in place, we again have that ability to develop. So it's going to be one of the limiting factors for development at the airport, and like something we have to solve in the long term. So great question.
And just maybe a follow-up in terms of the long-term funding for that infrastructure. I know in terms of our reserve capabilities, and we usually tax for those types of things. And there's also, in the district, we have a CNI levy, a capital and infrastructure levy. Is there conversation through the budget process that we might be able to have in terms of looking at the reserve or savings down into the future for projects such as that, or any other types of infrastructure projects that may be happening out in those lands?
Absolutely. And I think before budget time this coming fall, we'll do a more comprehensive discussion and presentation to the committee just on all of the things that's going on in the airport. We have our new airport development manager who I'm sure will come and do a presentation and just give the big picture. We're also very excited, just because we're talking about it, that we have the report on the end talking about the 1-year anniversary for the MOU, which also leads into the development plan. But basically, we've also been very successful in getting funding for that long-term land use and development plan. And so that's really going to dictate and help us guide us through to the future. So we'll have more information coming to the committee on all of that.
Great. Thank you, Jenny. So I'll look to the committee if someone would like, if they so choose, to make the recommendation. That's 7A there, request for the new water and sewer.
Do you want to do it? I'll make that motion that I'll move that the West Coast Committee recommend that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors rescind bylaw F 1106-1 and adopt a new water and sewer system bylaw for the Long Beach Airport.
Thank you, Vanda. Oh, thank you. Good. I was looking over to the right. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carried. Great. Next up on our list, we have a request for decision on the South Long Beach and new multi-use pathway maintenance. I'm looking over to Eddie. Is that no? It'll be Michael online. Oh, once again, I will look up Michael. There you are. I just put the glasses on. That helps. Great. Go ahead, Michael.
Thank you. Good morning. Michael McGregor, Lands and Resources Coordinator at the ACRD. So the purpose of this report is to, get some direction from the West Coast Committee for what they see as the appropriate role for the ACRD in relation to the District of Ucluelet owned section of the multi-use pathway. So that's the South Long Beach multi-purpose pathway. So District Ucluelet staff had recently reached out to the ACRD staff with a request. There's a motion from their council, directing their staff to, look at transitioning away from the maintenance and, providing funds and resources towards infrastructure outside the District Ucluelet boundaries. So that includes what we'll call the old section of the multi-use pathway. And so just a quick history of this infrastructure here. In 2001, District Ucluelet got a license of occupation with the province to construct a water line and pathway. And they did that. ACRD has a bylaw or a service in place that provides a contribution, and it was $3,500 up until 2013, and then $7,000 since annually for the maintenance of that pathway. And then the ACRD constructed the new section of pathway, so it goes from the old section to the national park boundary a few years ago. So that's kind of separate from this request here. So the ACRD has the license of occupation for the new section and provides all the operations and maintenance of that section of pathway. District Ucluelet has not provided maintenance on that section yet, but they have, for the life of their own pathway until this year is when they got the direction to transition away from that. So, they have requested to the ACRD to fully fund in 2025 the operations of that pathway. At the moment, we only have a max of $7,000 in that budget funded in our contribution service. So we are currently unable to do that without a budget amendment. And then they've also indicated that they don't want to provide those resources, beyond 2025. So, unofficially, I think that means that they are asking if the ACRD would take over, that pathway and provide funding for that, and potentially ownership too. That bit needs to be sorted out, but they do own the pathway and they do provide the maintenance. And I think they kind of indicated that They see it more as a regional pathway funded and paid for by the ACRD. So there, we've provided a few options in the report, and the big question is, what do you see the ACRD's role in governance for that pathway? Do we want to maintain, providing a contribution to the district of Ucluelet to help fund that? Do we want to increase that contribution, or do we want to take a bigger role in the governance and take over, that service and the maintenance and ownership that would include replacement of the infrastructure in there. There's a lot of 25-year-old culverts and whatnot that will need replacement. But right now that that role falls on District Ucluelet. Yeah, happy to answer any questions. I know there's lots of moving parts to this file, and we'll be continuing to talk for a bit, I think. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Michael. I'll look to the committee to see if there's any questions or comments at this point in time. And then I think we'll probably have a discussion. If you could stay with us in case there might be questions that come out of that. Go ahead, Marilyn.
Yeah, I think any of those options are viable. It's an asset that is getting older, as you mentioned, and culverts are needing replacing, and there's a lot of maintenance to be done. So yeah, I think just working on something that we can agree on together would be ideal.
I'm just wondering if there's been an assessment of the culverts and the condition of the pavement. I know that some mature trees have been allowed to grow and are causing buckling, and I kind of like I can see that that's just going to get worse, and those trees are going to come down at some point. So there's a lot of things to consider here, and I think it would be nice to get an idea of what the fixing up and maintenance costs are going to be, and then we can go from there on how to do a sharing of the costs.
Yeah, I'm looking up to Michael now in terms of the ability to do an asset servicing request. It looks like in terms of what that might look like into the future, and what I see, maybe if I can jump in terms of the bigger picture on this. There's a whole number of issues that have coming out, and a number of moving parts as you've talked about, and it took me a while to kind of get a grasp of what was going on. So I understand there are District of Ucluelet assets within underneath that path that would still be the ownership of the District of Ucluelet. We also then have the District of Ucluelet at this point in time has the license of occupation and I was a little confused about, are they actually the owners of that as well? I went through the report to see. So at this point in time, they have assets underneath there. We have a multiple use path on there that is within ACRD jurisdiction or territory. And then the crux of it is that the District of Ucluelet is suggesting that that those assets of the multiple use path, which if I understand correctly, they have the license of occupation for and have ownership of, they no longer want to support because it's within the ACRD jurisdiction. And so we have contributed, my understanding is through our budget process, $7,000 a year, and I can't remember what the historical time frame on that is, but that's what it stands today. I don't see any change in that happening. I'm not comfortable with going back through the budget process for 2025. I would not suggest that to staff to go through that process. That if this would have come much earlier in the conversation, I would have been happy to have entertained it at that time. I'm definitely not going to I would not make a recommendation for the 2025 budget year, but certainly I think there's a much more robust conversation about the long-term implications of taking over, and that feeds in, your one piece of that puzzle feeds into that conversation. So there needs to be a lot more conversation with the District of Ucluelet. There needs to be conversations within the ACRD in terms of staff and what the implications are of taking over the governance. At this point in time, I don't know what those implications are in terms of taking over the license of occupation and the ownership of that particular asset. I certainly respect the fact that it falls within the ACRD mandate, whether it goes through a South Long Beach Area C service or if it becomes a regional parks. I have conversations around the significance of regional parks and Tofino's contribution to that aspect. So I have some serious concerns about that I would need a lot more information on. So I'm not really prepared at this point in time to make any particular recommendation recommendations, I think we need a lot more information to come back before, I can suggest any course of action on this, other than that continued dialogue with the District of Ucluelet to ensure that we have all of the information in front of us so that we can make a much more informed recommendation to the ACRD board. That's a lot of words. I appreciate, but I don't know if there's any comment there, Michael, that might be appropriate in terms of, I have given you no direction in terms of moving forward, other than I think we need a lot more information before we can make a much more informed decision about which option would be in the best interests of the ACRD.
Yeah, thanks for that information. Just to touch on a few of those kind of questions that were proposed there. Do we have a current condition report and asset inventory? We don't. And that's something that I think that we need to go back to the District of Ucluelet with, or just to request that information. And I don't even know if they have that in any type of format that can be shareable at this moment. But I think, when we do talk about governance, getting that information on paper so it's clear to everyone is one of the more good first steps so that we can evaluate that further. And then secondly, about who owns it, I think they do want to continue owning the pipeline underneath the pathway. The ACRD does not, want to own that pipeline. And then like District of Ucluelet does own the pathway as well under the same license of occupation. So I think that there is a way to transfer that license of occupation to the ACRD if that were the governance model that the ACRD board supports. But if not, I think that the District of Ucluelet would be the owner going forward, and they hold responsibility for risk and liability and maintenance for
it. Thank you. Go ahead, Marilyn.
Thank you, Chair. I note that the first part of the motion that's suggested is to request a full asset inventory and condition report, which I think is a great first step. And the $7,000 for 2025, I wouldn't consider altering the budget to up that. It is a big improvement from the 3,500 that it's been up until this year, and there is a suggestion that it go up a little bit more for 2026, but that all depends on whether a maintenance agreement is actually re-entered into.
Yeah, thank you, Marilyn. That makes good sense. Veda, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I think I'm quite comfortable with these motions because that's impacting our next budget year. But I think also added to this might be an item that the recreation employees work together to come to some understanding and perhaps look for grants to do the asset to examine the path and see what needs doing.
Thanks, Marilyn. Just looking to staff. Michael, is that, do you have enough information there in terms of what the committee is looking for in terms of what Veda suggested? And Marilyn, I'm just reading over the first part of the two recommendations there, and embedded within there is that full asset inventory and condition report from the District of Ucluelet, and that would be sufficient at this point. And then the second recommendation, I need to think about for a second here, but it does have implications into the 2026 budget there. And I just want to, I'm going to look to Jenna because she's probably going to answer my question that I was about to bring forward.
And for clarity, the second resolution, which refers to the budget, is that the last part, and that a maximum increase of 8,750 would be considered for 2026. So what that means is that we would build that into our draft financial plan, which would come back to the committee and to the board for consideration. And at that time, if the committee and board wanted to adjust, they could.
Great. Yeah, you answered my question, so thank you. Appreciate that. So I'm comfortable with the two resolutions recommendations that are on there. Would anybody like to read those out, or do you have any questions, Kirsten? I keep heading to my right here, and I'm not ignoring you.
I don't think I have any questions. I can read is it two separate? Two separate, okay. Okay, that the West Coast Committee recommend that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors direct staff to investigate the assumption of ownership for South Long Beach multi-use pathway, including the request of a full asset inventory and condition report from the District of Ucluelet.
Seconded by Veda. I'll call quick.
And that the West Coast Committee recommend that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors direct staff to officially inform the District of Ucluelet that the contribution limit for the South Long Beach multi-use pathway is set at $7,000 for 2025, and that a maximum increase to $8,750 would be considered for 2026 if the district was willing to enter into a maintenance agreement.
By Veda. A second by Veda. I just have a quick question. For clarity, in terms of the requisition when it comes through, does that come from Area C for that particular 7, or is that the regional parks? I can't remember.
Yeah, oh, good. Terry's jumping on. Thank you.
Hi there. It's actually just a section of Area C. So I believe it's 93 parcels within the South Long Beach area that contribute to that service. So basically the parcels that are adjacent to the path.
Great. Thank you, Terry. Wonderful to see you. Great. So we have seconded on that. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carried. So next up on our list, another request for decision at Millstream Water System Metering, and I see Eddie heading to the podium. Thank you, Eddie.
Good morning, Chair and Committee. So I'm here to present a recommendation regarding the Millstream Water System that reflects both infrastructure needs and community input. In 2024, we had a significant leak within the water system that was brought to the committee in December. We, at that point, brought to the committee a plan for water meters, and more information was requested. We brought another report back in February of 25, talking about asset management plan and the future. And then we presented and engaged with the Millstream community in April of 2025 to explore future options and further financial planning and billing models. The feedback we received there was fairly clear. A majority of residents supported moving to a usage-based billing model, which would require the installation of water meters. That approach was seen as more equitable, charging users based on actual consumption, and then also helping us detect leaks and reduce operating costs in the system. So this report, within this report, staff are recommending the committee support, including water meter installation in the 26 to 2030 financial plan, contingent on securing 50% grant funding for the program. The estimated cost for the water meter installation overall is approximately $150,000 or $3,500 per connection. Currently, within the capital reserve for the Millstream water system, we have $175,000. If this is approved, staff will apply for an infrastructure planning grant this fall, and then continue developing a detailed implementation plan. Infrastructure planning grant and the implementation plan will just help us when we're applying for grants. This initiative does align with our asset management goals and responds directly to the community priorities around fairness, sustainability, and transparency. Happy to answer any questions or provide further detail.
Great. Thank you, Eddie. I'm going to look over to Veda, just
Your local Millstream resident. Yeah, I think it's really, really unfortunate that the province has put us in so many positions with the lack of oversight on logging company practices and building, and the historical lack of continued support of the infrastructure. But we are in this situation as it is, and I greatly appreciate all the work that you're doing to keep this system running. It's absolutely ridiculous, the amount of work that's going into this. So I would like to, if it's possible, add another motion after this motion. Is that possible?
I see no harm in that. You have it all prepared for us?
Yes.
Awesome. You are wonderful. So yeah, if there's no other questions from the board, if you want to make the first motion, and then we can look to your second motion.
And thank you so much for your work, Eddie. Okay, so I would like to move that the West Coast Committee recommend that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors direct staff to add water meter installation to the 2026 to 2030 financial plan for the Millstream water system, contingent on receiving, and I'm going to add at least 50% grant funding for the project, because I don't think that the number of residents can support large increases.
Seconded. Marilyn, any comments? I'm just a quick comment, maybe just for clarity, Eddie. When you said about the grant application process, was that just for planning, or was that for actual infrastructure that the meters installed themselves? Great, thank you, Eddie. And just maybe a quick follow-up. And so I wrote down that the total potential estimated budget for this will be $150,000 for the installation, the planning and installation.
Correct. Yeah.
Correct. Thank you. With that, all those answered, all those in favor, seeing none opposed, motion carried. Thanks, Eddie. Oh, and you have a second motion that you would like to bring forward.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, I think we're looking at having the water system as a taxation-based kind of thing in the future. So with that in mind, I would like to suggest move that this committee recommend to the ACRD board that they consider the Millstream water system upgrade for community works funding.
I'll second that. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carried. Cynthia, was that enough? Was that okay? Perfect. Great. Thank you. So on our, wow, man, we're going through this agenda. Good work, everyone. We're down into reports. Oh, 2024 West Coast Landfill Annual Report. I'm not sure who's speaking to that. I'm looking up. I got my glasses on. Is that Jody up there? Hello there, Jody. Are you going to give us our annual report? It is that time of the year. Wonderful. Oh, and there's Terry there as well. Take it away, who's ever taking it away.
All right. Can you see my slides?
Negative.
All right, one second. That's because I didn't share my screen. That helps. How about now?
I can see your Zoom invite on our screen.
Okay. And how about now? There we are.
We have your West Coast Landfill 2024 year in review up on our screen.
Perfect. All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jody Frank. I'm the acting solid waste manager. And this presentation, I am going to go through the West Coast Landfill and look at 2024, the year in review. So a quick overview of my presentation. We're going to quickly run through the mission and targets. Have a look at the solid waste generated for 2024, look at our waste diversion, quickly run through landfill capacity, finances, environmental monitoring, and then have a look at the projects that were completed in 2024 and look at upcoming projects for 2025. So when we look at solid waste as a whole and the work that we undertake, our overarching mission statement is to protect human health and the environment and maximize value of service by effectively managing the region's solid waste in an environmentally, socially, and economically responsible manner. So as part of our mission, we also have set about 6 targets through our annual report mechanisms. So the first, we look to reduce the waste that's going to our landfill to less than 400 kgs per person per capita. Goal number 2 is that we want to divert at least 50% of the waste that we're generating. Airspace consumption ratio, we want to keep that around 660 kgs per cubic meter. Meet our annual capital contributions and the requirements there. Confirm all leachate is treated to meet requirements and to ensure our landfill gas generation is less than 1,000 tons of methane per year. So when we look at waste disposal in 2024, so around 8,595 tons of waste materials were generated in 2024. When we look at that top gray section, that's 6,000 tons of waste material. And that first gray section there shows what was sent to the landfill for landfilling. And of that, about 4,000 tons were municipal solid waste, and then about 1,700 came from the C&D sector. When we break up that municipal solid waste even further, we see that about 1,300 tons came from a residential stream, and then just under 3,000 tons came from the commercial sector. So that's in industry, institutions, and commercial. Now moving down to the colored section, our happy section of the material that was kept out of the landfill. So about 2,500 tons were diverted from the landfill. Of that, 643 were composted, and that's through our curbside organics program as well as self-haul. And then when we look at our recycling components, just under 2,000 tons were recycled through curbside recycling, through the 2 depots. And that also includes product stewardship, so things like paint, electronics, light bulbs, and batteries. And then other recycling looks at items such as mattresses and metal. And then our IC&I recycling, which is primarily cardboard, and that sits at about 450 tons. So that's the big picture of the waste for West Coast. And then when we look at solid waste generation and waste disposal, just breaking that down a little bit further. So we looked at that amount that was landfilled. When we take that number and divide it by our population, and we have a population estimate that has a special formula that considers the variance of tourism population as well as our seasonal residents. So we get that 490. So in 2024, our waste generation number was 490, and as you can see from 2023, we have decreased about 5.5%, which is great to see that we are trending downwards. And then over the last 5 years, we've also we are steadily declining. We had a bit of a bump in 2022, most likely due to construction and demolition waste going to the landfill. Over to the right, we just look how we're comparing to other regional districts in BC. As you can see in 2024, that ACRD number sits at 504 kgs per person. That looks different from the number on the left there, or my left, as it combines the AV as well as the West Coast, as it takes the regional district perspective. The province has a target of getting that waste generation number down to 350 kgs per person. So we've got a bit of work to do, but we're not the worst on the chart, so that's positive. Looking at waste diversion a little bit more, so of that 2,500 tons that was diverted in 2024, we've seen that increase slightly by 3%. So we are sitting at about a 30% waste diversion rate. And we've seen a 10% increase since 2020. And that's largely due to the curbside organics program, where we've seen just under 650 tons over the last year of organics being diverted. This graph shows us just that. So this is the West Coast 3-stream program, which was implemented late in 2020. So the program introduced organics as well as the cart system. to over 1,900 homes. And we increased diversion. We were sitting at about 23% prior to the organics program. And we've increased our diversion rate to about 57 with the curbside program, including organics. So another positive with the trend. Landfill capacity. So when we look at landfill capacity, we measure this in airspace utilization. And this refers to how we efficiently use our landfill and the available space to store waste. So if we can imagine that the landfill is a big container with a limited amount of space, the goal is to fit as much waste as possible into that container without wasting any space. So we measure airspace utilization in terms of how much waste or tons fits into a cubic meter of landfill space. So the higher the number means that the landfill is using the space more efficiently and fitting more waste into each cubic meter. The efficient airspace utilization number really helps us extend the life of the landfill. It reduces costs and ensures that we can handle more waste over time. So as the previous graph showed, we disposed about 6,057 tons of waste in 2024, and that resulted in an airspace consumption ratio of 626 kgs per cubic meter. So we're down a little bit from last year's number, but it is important that we constantly work with our landfill operators on different methods and mechanisms for best practices and innovative solutions on how we can increase compaction and the ability to conserve that airspace. So as our population grows, more people enter the community, diversion plays a really important role. The less waste we generate and the more we divert means that we have more landfill space. Looking over to the financial aspect. So back in 2012, the West Coast Landfill Design Operations and Closure Plan, also known as the DOCP, identified that there was a need for a $5.6 million fund for our closure and post-closure activities. So from that figure, we were directed to contribute a base amount of approximately $70,000 annually. And throughout the years, we've increased that. So this year we contributed $100,000 to the closure and post-closure fund, and then $56,000 to the capital fund, with that combined figure of $156,000. As you can see, the capital fund shows a significant decrease in that 2022 to 23. And that is a reflection on that West Coast Organics facility that you see in the bar graph there on your right. Moving along to environmental monitoring. So this program has been ongoing since 1996. In 2024, 15 water sites were monitored. And this happens with our water operations staff, and they conduct samples quarterly. So the West Coast landfill is built on marine clay, which is a natural barrier and helps contain leachate within the active waste site. This helps prevent it from seeping into the groundwater. Leachate is that liquid that forms when rainwater and precipitation filters through the waste and interacts with the waste materials. It can carry contaminants, which makes proper management essential for the landfill's environmental protection. With our collection system, so there's perimeter ditches that are installed around the site. These ditches collect the leachate that seeps from the edges and channel it to the lagoon on the southwest side of the landfill. From the lagoon, leachate is then pumped to a spray irrigation field that is located north of the landfill. And this field is designed specially to reduce contaminants before the water reaches the Sandhill Creek. So due to the mineral clay foundation, The monitoring focuses on the surface water and the leachate rather than the groundwater. And I mean water operations staff, conduct those samplings at various points. So the leachate collection points, the irrigation field, and then background control locations. From there, samples are sent to a lab for testing for different metals, inorganic compounds, pH, and other water quality indicators. From there, that data is submitted to our consultants at PITO, who review the data and compile an annual report, which is also linked to your package. So that's a separate report that speaks to the water program in more detail. And that is a supplementary report that we submit to the ministry along with the annual report in your package. Now this graph here is, so this is the data that really displays the different substances and characteristics in the water that drains from the landfill and collects in the lagoon. So this really just shows how polluted the leachate potentially is and how it might affect the environment. So the main environmental factors that can affect leachate levels at the West Coast landfill are things like precipitation, temperature, evaporation, soil, and different ground conditions. Materials like chloride levels can rise during dry periods, where ammonia levels can drop during dry periods due to less flushing and more natural treatment. When we look at overflow events, so overflow events to the lagoon, usually driven by heavy rainfall. So we had 2 confirmed overflow events from the lagoon that occurred after heavy rainfall. However, no measurable impact to Sandhill Creek, and the water quality was detected during those events. Landfill gas. So 373 tons of methane gas were generated in 2024. Once we reach 1,000 tons of methane per year, a gas collection system would be required. So we're sitting pretty healthy below that threshold at the moment. Other factors that contribute to greenhouse gases are things like vehicle and equipment use, as well as organic material that's buried in the landfill. So very important that we keep that out, as we've been doing. When we look at operations of the landfill, so no formal inspections were conducted by the ministry in 2024. However, regular site inspections and reporting requirements are incorporated into our operations contract with the operators at the landfill. And we also have monthly inspections that the landfill operators undertake. And then ACRD staff meets with our operators on a quarterly basis. Other factors on operation. So through our Recollect and Sort and Go app, we have seen over 200,000 material searches. So people, what that means is that people are making an effort to really look at what materials go where. That number isn't specific to the West Coast, however, it does include AV data as well. But as a whole, it's great to see that our residents are looking up various waste materials and what can be diverted. We also have our West Coast Working Group that meets with various groups on the West Coast. We have regular check-ins with our local hauler, who is also a source of feedback for on-site landfill operations. And we have a good relationship with Parks Canada as well, who's our immediate neighbor to the landfill site. So any feedback can be generated through them as well. All right, so now looking at projects completed in 2024. So the organics composting facility in 2024, the 2 cover buildings were installed to protect the finished compost from weather and to help us improve the curing process. From there, we had our first testing cycle of the West Coast organic material. So that was tested in 2024. And it was tested to ensure that it met the requirements so that we could offer it as a sale product. And as a result, it met all of the requirements. And as this is in the past, this at this period, this was really its opportunity for us to get our key communication and education material ready to sell it in 2025. As part of the compost being ready, we also partnered with Ocean Legacy with a really neat initiative in 2024 that looked at recycled ocean plastic litter that was recovered from beach cleanups that was sent to be manufactured into material like buckets. So with these buckets, they've been designed and logoed with the Sort and Grow logo. And the intention was that they would be made available for purchase with the Sort and Grow compost. So that picture that you see there just really displays the two really neat life cycles of the recycling of the buckets and food waste into amazing compost. So within the composting realm, biosolids processing. So in August 2024, the wastewater treatment plant was commissioned, and the landfill began receiving biosolids at the site. So this material is currently being passively composted at the landfill and will ultimately be used for landfill cover. We are also looking at various processing options down the road, and these will also be further explored when we update our design, operation, and closure plan, also known as the DOCP, which I'll touch on a little bit more. The update of our solid waste management plan. So steps 1 through 3 were complete. Back in October and November, we did phase 2 of the engagement plan and completed step 3 of the plan process. This really focused on sharing the targets and goals and strategies with the communities, including different feasibility options. We held over 20 meetings in 10 communities during that engagement period. Waste reduction education program. So in 2024, we focused on the waste prevention hierarchy and carried out our activities through different contractors and partnerships on the West Coast using different approaches and strategies. Our engagement was focused on attending various presentations and community booths, along with building our online interaction platform and using the use of social media, and other tools. WildSafe BC staff, as well as our partners from WildSafe BC, provided educational support and awareness for residents regarding the proper storage and use of the curbside carts. Additional cart maintenance was also provided to better help secure carts in troublesome locations. And I'll speak more to this in the 2025 slide, which is next. Our focus area for 2025. So again, working with WildSafe BC with the cart management and enforcement. So WildSafe is just gearing up for the 2025 summer season. And they've had some staffing changes, so we're just getting up to speed with the new individual there. And we're working towards our action plan at the moment. So as part of the Sort and Go curbside collection program, we'll continue with that education piece to help with the wildlife management strategies. ACRD staff as well as WildSafe are determined and are going to look at not just education around cart storage, but moving to more of a compliance action plan. So we are looking at a pilot as per the motion from our last West Coast Committee meeting on ways to strengthen not just education, but look at compliance letters for residents that are storing their carts improperly or improper car usage. So we will work with our district partners as well as WildSafe BC to to explore different options for enforcement mechanisms, as well as that education component as well. Phase 3 power upgrades. So with the installation of the compost facility, as well as there's a new cell phone tower, the landfill requires some power upgrades. So in partnership with Rogers, we are facilitating the upgrade to 3-phase power along Alaska Pine Road. And once that primary installation of power upgrades are complete, we will then run power from that main source on Alaska Pine Road to the compost facility to ensure that we have sufficient power to support all current and future upgrades. I've also mentioned the DOCP, which is that Design, Operation, and Closure Plan, which was originally created in 2012. So this now requires updating to reflect our upgrades to the tipping area, our new processing facilities, and to look at leachate upgrades as well. The province has created new criteria since our last DOCP was created. So the DOCP also needs to reflect those changes. We are going to look at a commercial waste incentive program in 2025. So as we are aware, on the West Coast, a significant amount of waste that is generated comes from the commercial and tourism sectors, as the West Coast is a very popular destination. Staff will be exploring options to pilot a program that looks at commercial waste going to landfill and looking at leveraging economic factors such as additional fees or rates for garbage that can contribute to grants or incentive programs that will assist in either minimizing and or diverting unnecessary waste from those sectors. Commercial organics diversion. So as we have seen with the success of the residential program, the next step is to look at options for the commercial sector. We do understand there are some limitations in this space with hauling and whatnot. So we're looking at different mechanisms in 2025 to help support commercial organics diversion. And then waste education assessment. So as waste education is so very important to the behavior change, we want to build on the current education framework and have staff explore options to move education in-house as an internal position. So this will just really help with being more involved in local opportunities, help us engage with the community, and just have a really consistent delivery of educational programs. Operational and environmental monitoring sorry, I'm just going to grab a drink of water here. Looking at our environmental monitoring enhancements to the water monitoring program that I talked about a couple slides ago. So based on PTO's assessment, there are some recommendations that we will look at in 2025. And that's just looking at different mechanisms to improve the system. And then the Synergy Foundation. So back in 2024, the board supported through a letter of support an application for Synergy to look at a case study around construction and demolition waste. So with the successful application of this project, if it is successful, we're hoping to hear very, very soon, but this will look at construction and demolition waste from a regional perspective, so the AV and the West Coast, and looking at different processing options for that sector. So that wraps up 2025, and I'm happy to take any questions about the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. That was a lot, and I appreciate, well, taking the drink of water too. Appreciate bringing that forward. I'll look to the committee for questions and comments. You know I'm going to have a few, so, but anyways, yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to the commercial waste being addressed because people in the commercial sector have all along been very supportive of their ecological management of these wastes, and they've got all of these products that are like bamboo and designed to be put into the organics, and and then I see them in big black bags and going just into the general waste. So it's very frustrating. But we also have a situation where organics are being put into the big bins that are not locking. And what I'm wondering is if there should be a bylaw that says at any level, if you are disposing of organics, your bin must be a locking bin. Because we're in a situation actually this week with bears getting into the unlocked big bins in commercial areas. Thank you. And thank you so much for your work.
Good. I didn't know if you had specifically a question towards looking in. I think the question was looking into a bylaw for locking carts. I know maybe I'll let Jody or Jenny or whoever might be able to answer. In terms of the municipalities is where some of those, like in the district of Tofino, we've our wildlife attractant bylaw is an example of where we might be able to enforce outside of maybe the ACRD. I'd maybe look to Maryland in terms of the district of Ucluelet and what may be there. I think maybe it might be limited in what the ACRD might be able to do and then in fact enforce in terms of bylaw. So which may be a challenge, but maybe I'll look to Jody if you maybe have any comments on that.
I can say with our work that we're currently doing with Wild Safe PC right now, I know that Bob has done some work working with the districts on looping in bylaw a little bit more just with the compliance letters. So we can definitely leverage if we can our bylaw officers to help. Obviously we need to go the bylaw route, but yeah, I'll just leave it there that's something we are definitely looking at, is just tightening up whether it's through bylaws or enforcement bodies as well.
Right. Thank you, Jody. And Beta, you had follow-up?
Thank you so much. Yeah, the bylaw, I wasn't thinking so much in terms of ACRD implementing the enforcement of it. It's if we have a bylaw on the books, then the contractor knows that if he is providing a bin and they specifically say that there will be organics in it, they will provide a locking bin and they don't have the option of the unlocking. I think that would then go to the contractor's responsibility. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Veda. That's great. Good point. Any questions or comments for Jody? I've got a few, but go ahead, Marilyn.
Yeah, just sort of a fun fact. We replaced those carabiners with padlocks right at the beginning because the carabiners were not strong enough. And we had a bear in our yard yesterday and toppled our garbage can over and realized he couldn't get into it and left. So padlocks work really well.
Yeah, I have a bolting mechanism on mine. Yeah. Great. Thank you. Thank you, Jody. Appreciate all the work. And I think some of the key things for me that after reading the report again, and that stood out for me, that we're trending in the right direction, in terms of our landfill, our waste reduction, our diversion percentages. As you pointed out, we still have room to grow, so to speak, or not grow. And so I look forward, and you have identified many of the areas that we know that we have to work on, and I think everybody in this room, especially with ICI as one of our culprits, and I know we have willing partners, definitely at the district and with Tourism Tofino. I've talked with Brad and the Chamber of Commerce with Samantha in terms of the conversations we can have with those businesses in terms of those education, and I know that we'll be waiting to hear from your folks there. So that's definitely a positive trend, but we recognize that we're still a ways off of even that 400 a mark at 491 right now, wanting to get to that to 350. and I think one of the things that from the general public, when we look at the landfill and the closure and all the work, and when it's 37 years, 2062, 37 years isn't that long. I hope to be around to be able to see that. So the longer that we can extend the life of that out, it's better not only for the environment but for the taxpayers as well for that. So it's an area that I think that we can educate. Yes, it's 37 years down the road, but that comes fast, as I'm finding out. So certainly that's an area that we can educate the public in terms of the importance of why we're doing the work that we're doing. And so I compliment you on that. In terms of the key projects that you accomplished in 20, I had 12 written down. You only had 6 listed there, but I wrote 12 down. So I really want to shout out to the team and the staff, an incredible amount of work that is done. Not to be overstated, but I recognize how it goes underneath the radar, so to speak. But there's a tremendous amount of work that's been gone out there, and it's not lost on a lot of the of our constituents that I talk to on a daily basis. So thank you for all of that work. And then in 2025, some of those key projects with the 3-phase and the cart work, the commercial waste incentive program, which I think is having some effect already in terms of just those startup conversations, as you can see in our reductions. I did have one question, and in terms of, and you're going to have to remind me in terms of the leachate work that we're doing, and I know a lot of that's going to be grant dependent. It is, but I didn't see that, and you may have to refresh my memory in terms of, we know that we need to come into compliance in those areas, and that it's going to be an expensive project, and I'm wondering if that's going to be a 2026 conversation. I didn't see it in any, or maybe I just missed it in terms of the potential upcoming work in 2025.
Right. So great question. So that'll be captured under the DOCP review, the design operation closure plan.
Great, thank you. And that, okay, great. Enough said there. Good. I think that, I could go on and on. Like I got 3 pages here, but for sake of brevity, we'll move on. And I'll just, we don't even have a motion. We just want to thank you for coming in and speaking here to us and informing us of that. So next on our, sorry, go ahead, Marilyn.
Just a quick note, I would love to have another tour of the facility, if that would be a possibility for the directors at some point, Jody.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can do it. Yeah, we can have a little celebration. There's a few things I have in mind for that one. It's the only forum I get to really say that I love to talk trash. I can't really say that in any other forum. So this is the one that I actually get to do that in. So, so thank you, Jody. Appreciate coming out today. We'll see you soon, I hope. Next up on the agenda, we have, thank you, Jenny, the 1-year update for the Long Beach Airport Healthy MOU. This is a wonderful, wonderful piece of work here.
Yes, landfills is good news. It really is, as well as the work that we're doing at the airport. So we're really happy to report about the success that we've had over the last year. We entered into an MOU with Ucluelet First Nation to basically do better land use management and planning together. And it really has been excellent. We definitely had some very good working relationships beforehand, but formalizing it in an MOU has made a big difference. Thank you. So I just want to give some highlights as to some of the excellent things that have happened over the last year and what we're looking forward to in the coming year. So just regular day-to-day review of lease applications has been excellent. We have gotten leaseholders signed on to the Tribal Park Ally program. We have community contributions heading towards Ucluelet again, all in an intent to support development of the community so that there's benefit going back to the First Nations. We do have some signage in the terminal building, as well as a recognition of the Tribal Park Declaration is up in there. And we did a signing ceremony in November with the power out. It was beautiful. And it actually, it was surprisingly successful because we were almost ready to cancel it. And we thought, no, let's just go ahead and do it. And it was lovely. It was really nice. We had everyone there. The Hawith was there, and we did a tour, and it was really lovely. We have, as part of the MOU, we have a $2.50 additional charge onto passenger flights, and that actually helps to support basically the MOU and the participation in the program. So that's very successful. In 2024, we transferred about $15,000 to basically the MOU activities, which was great. And then again, I mentioned the community contributions, and so we've had just over $6,000 from leaseholders above and beyond what we, as the ACRD, receive in revenue, are going to contribute to the community of Ucluelet. So it's been really great. Next steps and things that we're going to do is we're going to continue, of course, to review the leases and expand the cultural interpretation materials at the airport. The big news that I alluded to earlier is that we were successful in receiving a big grant through the REDIP program, and that money is going to help us to do the land use and development plan. I think that one of the reasons we were successful is because we have a partnership in place with Ucluelet. So I think that we need to remember what the value is that comes to us in participating in this, in addition to just really doing reconciliation activities. I think it's going to guide the future for a lot of success at the airport. We have filled the position of the airport development manager, and that's going to continue to be a liaison for this program and for all of our leaseholders. So we're really excited about this and happy to answer any questions that you have about this. And just a quick update for everyone.
Great, thank you. Really appreciate the update on all the good work that's been going on. Any comments or questions from committee? No, well, thank you, Jenny. Appreciate it, and all the work that's been done on that. And you did allude to the some of the benefits that come from those relationships. It's paramount. It is the future, and I think I think the staff of the ACRD, and I know Daniel's been very paramount in that work there. And I do see him up there on the screen. So thank you for all the work that's been done there. Next on our agenda is getting near the end here is our ex officio members update. I don't see anybody on there. And Cynthia, maybe I'll look over to see if there's I don't see anyone up on there in terms of Pacific Rim National Park, Howsett, Ucluelet, or Heshkwet on there. But maybe I'll just look over just in case I'm missing something. I don't see anything. Great. So I'll move then that the West Coast Committee receive these reports. Thank you, Veda. All those in favor, seeing none opposed, motion carried. There is no late business today. I'll look maybe seeing nobody online, but if there is some questions, this is the opportunity for questions from the public if there is any. I don't think there's any online, but I'll just quickly check over. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
So there's, is it working? There's no questions received through Zoom and none through the email.
Great. Thank you, Cynthia. I'll just look to our one audience member. Yeah. Absolutely. Just in terms of our protocol, just your name, that would be great. And if there's a question, it's any of the agenda items that was on here, that would be wonderful.
Yes.
There we go. Hi, Brian is my name. I'm a resident of Millstream, and it's just in regards to on the 14th of May at your previous meeting, there was a motion made forward by yourself, Tom, to look into moving the bus stop that goes through the residential area of Millstream to the highway. And my question is, what's the update on that? And how does the public know, like, where do you actually put that for the public to see?
Great. Thank you for the question, Brian. I'll look to staff that you're right. There was a motion that was brought forward. What it is a recommendation from the committee up to the board for their consideration as a whole. I'll look maybe to Jenny or to yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So that review is still in process. We're working with MOTT. We're kind of working on a couple of things. A short-term way to alleviate the problem or alleviate the concern as much as we can, while looking at what will totally be necessary long-term to make the bigger change. So we're working with BC Transit, and I should say BC Transit staff is working on identifying ways to reduce the amount of buses traveling through the community in the short term. There's some challenges because the stop isn't a timing point. It will need a complete schedule makeover. So then when we're involving multiple parties within BC Transit, we're looking at probably October before that's implemented. So we're currently, the buses go through 9 times a day northbound, 9 times a day southbound. We're looking to reduce that potentially to 4 each way. We also don't want to impact too many of the current users of the system because the ridership data is so fresh. The system is so fresh that they don't really have a good handle on when the majority are using the system. So they're working to make sure that the majority of using the system aren't impacted. Then when we're currently working with MOTT on the long-term options to identify the best area on the highway for a new stop if possible. MOTT does have a number of requirements. So we have to have adequate sight lines for 70-kilometer-an-hour travel there. We need at least 200 meters. And then we need a pedestrian waiting area at any stop that we identify, and then a shoulder to walk along the highway. So staff will be working with MOTT to do a field review in the next couple weeks to identify that location and to see where exactly we can do, and then put together kind of high-level cost estimates from there for the necessary work.
That answers that question. Then the other thing you brought up today was the failing water infrastructure. So the buses going around the Millstream area, that'll also increase the failing water issue by like heavy traffic and whatnot. So you were saying 2030 is when that's going to be addressed. So that's also going to put a heavier demand on the water issue, having that bus on that route.
Yeah, I think that that's a reasonable understanding. I would say that what we are seeing is we still see most of the water leaks are on the services, which aren't on the roadway. So that's where a lot of the failures are happening over the last years. There, depending on the road bedding conditions and how things are going around the water mains, there may be a potential impact. So recognize that concern and appreciate you bringing it up.
Yeah, I'd appreciate to put that into your going forward as well. Thank you.
Right. Appreciate coming out here and the questions, and thank you for the responses. Seeing none other in the audience here, thank you everyone for coming out today, and I'll move from the chair adjournment, and I don't need a seconder because I get the privilege of the chair. So meeting adjourned. Thanks everyone.